So this is the final Sunday that we are talking about money and finances. And I'm going to let y'all in on a little secret. So I grew up in this teaching, the years that I was my foundational years in Science of Mind. I very much grew up in one of those centers that is a prosperity-centric center. So very much, if you focus on it, you can create it, you can have anything that you want. And we did a summer prosperity series every summer, and you just have to think a different thought and you'll have a different experience, all of that sort of thing, the prosperity gospel, if you will. And then I kind of had this big pendulum swing where I was like, well, that's all well and good, but no matter how many different thoughts that I have, the system of the world that we're living in is still broken. And so there's no thinking that I can do that's going to change an entire global system without the support of at least a few other people, that I can't do it all by myself. And so I did this big pendulum swing to, well, that's not the right way to teach it. And so I've been really wrestling with where's the middle ground, right? Like the prosperity gospel, all you have to do is have a different thought, and it doesn't matter what your circumstances or situation or the system that you're living in is, that everybody's on an equal playing field on one end, and there's nothing you can do, all is lost, right, on the other, because the whole system is broken. Surely somewhere in there's a middle ground. There's something for us to glean out of these conversations, and that we teach, right? We teach it's all one, and we teach that it's all God. And so somewhere in there must be something for us to do. So I had an aha this past week, and I want to share my aha with y'all, because I think I have it all figured out. Obviously not, because I haven't poofed out of existence because I'm enlightened yet. But I had this aha that I wanted to share with y'all. And it's this idea of top down or bottom up. And so basically, this idea of prosperity gospel, it's all on your shoulders, is the bottom up, right? It starts at you as the individual and it moves up. And this idea that all is lost in the system, these are my two ideas, right? You might not feel this way, but all is lost, that's the bottom, that's the top down. That's this sort of, it's a global issue, and there's nothing that me, one little tiny person in 7 billion, there's nothing that I can do to fix it. And so what is the true answer? Because the reality is that if you're only looking at your life and saying it's all in my hands, I'm 100% responsible for the entire planet and everything that is happening and everything that is happening to me, through me, as me, by me, all of it, that it's only me, I'm the only thing, then what we have is rugged individualism. And so rugged individualism is it's only half, right? It's only half of this top-down, bottom-up approach. It's only the bottom-up approach that you have to do it all by yourself. And if we're looking at this top-down approach only, then what we get is victim consciousness, because it's all of the sudden, I'm only one person. There's nothing that I can do to change anything. All is lost. Everything is happening to me. I cannot control the outpicturing of anything. And we have this victim consciousness. But as y'all can see from both of these pictures, that it's not a complete system, that it's cut off there in the middle. So you can take it down now. Yeah. So what I want to look at is some of the effects of what happens when we are living from only bottom up or only top down, and then what's the alternative? What could it possibly look at if we're taking an approach of both bottom up and top down, right? Are y'all following me so far? Oh. I'm getting some confused looks, some like this, and some thumbs up and hand waves. So yes and no. So just go with me for a second, because what I want to talk about right now, and hold off on the slide for just a minute, but what I want to talk about is what happens if we're viewing a top-down approach without that bottom up. So we've cut it off in the middle, and we're viewing the world through victim consciousness. So victim consciousness is everything happens to me, all is lost, there's nothing I can do. And so what happens is that you become hopeless. There's this hopelessness that shows up when you believe that the world is happening to you and you can only react to everything that is coming at you. And that there's nothing you can do to change anything that is happening out there, that you are just one lonely little person and things are just going to happen to you. That feels pretty hopeless, right? And it also, I know for me, what comes up if I'm stuck in that mode is this: nothing matters. Nothing matters. Why even bother? Why bother to try to change my life? Why bother to try to get a job that I love, or to have enough money to foster relationships? Why bother? None of it matters. It's all going to just be taken away from me anyways, because the world is just coming at me too fast for me to handle, right? And then when we have that hopeless, nothing matters, we get stuck in patterns of destruction because there's no reason to create anything. And so we get stuck in these patterns of destruction. Maybe it's destructive behavior, or maybe it's apathy. And then finally, we're always blaming others for our problems. We don't want to take any responsibility. Well, if you had only done this, then I wouldn't have done that. And you wouldn't be mad at me right now. So really, this is all your fault. It's all your fault. I didn't do anything. I only reacted to what you said, right? That blaming everybody else for my problems, right? Well, I didn't pay my car payment because you didn't, pay me back that $20 you owed me. And if you had just paid me back that $20 you owed me, I obviously would have been able to pay my $300 car payment. So this is really all your fault. It's all your fault, right? So have you ever heard somebody kind of stuck in that pattern of, oh, it's always somebody else. It's never me. It's never me. Well, she left me. Well, he did that. Well, if they had only, then I wouldn't have, right? And so when we're coming at this space of this victim consciousness, this kind of top-down only idea, then all of a sudden we get to take no responsibility, and not in a good way. It's not this feel-good kind of like, la, la, la. It's more like this, the world sucks, right? But instead, what does it look like if we're taking, and we'll pull up the top-down imbalance, the communal. Yes. What does it look like to look at the world from the perspective of the top down when it's in balance with the bottom up? When it's part of this communal aspect. And so then all of a sudden, if we're looking at this world, at the world from a holistic approach, it's, yeah, you know what? The system's not working, but we can change that. We can come together, that the system is built on all of us, and all of us are able to fix it. We can create societies that work for all of the people in them. And instead, it's no longer, well, the system's broken and it's done this to me, but instead, I am a part of that system. I am a part of the society. And so together we are going to make it work. we take care of one another, when we're coming at this from a communal approach, all of the sudden, it is important to me, because to be in balance, to make sure that you have your needs met, that we're coming together. We're good stewards of the planet, because all of the sudden, in this communal approach, there's this understanding of it's not all about me, but I can make a difference. What I do matters. We focus on this bigger picture, and we can look at what does a world that works for everyone look like, and then we can actually make changes that move towards that. And finally, we are looking at the conditions that are in place right now that are making the world challenging for some people to live in, and we can deny the power of that condition. We know that together as a community that we can shift and change and grow. So, now are y'all with me a little more? Okay. So you can see that if you're only looking at the big picture, global sort of scale of things, and you've cut it off in the middle, that all of a sudden nothing matters because what you do isn't important. But if we take it in balance with that bottom up, all of a sudden it opens us up to this way of showing up in community, this communal evolution, if you will, this community care. So what does bottom up only look like? It looks like rugged individualism. Now, I personally think, you can actually take that down, I'll just verbally say those. So I personally think that our society in general, not totally, not everyone, but in general, we like to do this very victim-y, sort of top-down only, that all is lost and I am a byproduct of the systems that I am a part of sort of thing. And I believe that often the way that New Thought or Science of Mind is taught is trying to bypass that. And so what we get is rugged individualism. So rugged individualism is this idea that you can just pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and if you just work hard enough, think hard enough, do hard enough, that you can change your whole life around. That everything can be different, and all of the sudden, none of the systems that are on the planet are going to affect you, and all of the sudden, you are able to change things that are completely outside of your control. And so what is the problem with rugged individualism? Well, first and foremost, it causes burnout, because we can only pull ourselves up by our bootstraps with no help and support for so long before we just burn out. It also has us taking responsibility for things that are completely outside of our control. I have heard people blame other people for it raining on their events. Well, if you had just thought harder, it wouldn't have rained on your wedding day. If you had just worked a little bit harder, what was in your consciousness that caused rain? The rain, y'all, it's the rain. There might have been somebody down the road praying for rain. Right? All of a sudden, we're expected to take responsibility for other people's overstepping our boundaries, or for other people harming us in some way. That all of a sudden, it is 100% my fault that the world is not working. That doesn't really work. We get that metaphysical malpractice. You have a kidney stone? What's in your thinking? What did you do to create that kidney stone? I would never create a kidney stone. That's just not in my consciousnness. I actually had somebody say that to me, and I was like, well, that's good for you. But that metaphysical malpractice of it's all your fault. If your life is not all rainbows and butterflies and unicorns and roses all the time, it is your fault. And that also then says that if your life is rainbows, not rainbows, butterflies, unicorns, and roses, that it's somehow wrong. That there is a right way to have a life and a wrong way. And if your life isn't happy and good all the time, you're doing it wrong. And we all know that that's not true. And that brings a lot of blaming in, right? We blame ourselves. Have you ever asked yourself, well, what did I think to have this cold? Instead of just, wow, my body was really tired. I'm so glad that I have this opportunity to rest. It takes me a few days to get there, but we get there eventually, right? Or blaming other people. It also, there's a difference between looking something in the eye and saying, this condition has no power over me. And rugged individualism has us turn away from the condition and refuse to look at it. And if we refuse to look at it, it gets to just fester there in the background until all of a sudden it was a little, spill that we could clean up with a single paper towel. And now it's this giant tar pit that has crashed over the top of our lives. So rugged individualism, it doesn't work either, right? So what does it look like to be in balance with that top down, bottom up? What does the bottom up look like in balance? And so it looks like individual, but not rugged individualism, but just the individual. And so, because there's not nothing, there are things that we can do to shift the world, right? We can look at our patterns, our personal patterns of behavior and say, are these patterns destructive or productive? What can I do to shift the way that I am showing up in my life? We can take responsibility for our part in what is happening. I saw this thing the other day that said, if you are only blaming your ex for a failed relationship, then you are not seeing things clearly. And that a healthy way to view a past relationship is when you can say, oh man, I could have really done this or that better. Not all of it. It's not all on you, but it's not all on them either. That we can truly show up and say, what aspect of this is my responsibility? And look at what needs to happen to shift that. We can shift our perspective. So we have this phrase, change your thinking, change your life. And if you have been in New Thought any amount of time at all, you have learned that it is not that simple. And it does not matter how many times you say, I love myself, that if there is no action or work behind that affirmation, that the thinking, the life doesn't change as much as we might hope, right? And so instead what it is yes, we say those affirmations, yes, and we also shift our perspective. We also root out those belief systems that put that original thought there in the first place. We change our system of beliefs. We change our patterns of behaviors. We do the work internally that is ours to do. And maybe we do that with our minister. Maybe we do that with a practitioner. Maybe we do that with a therapist. Maybe we have a really amazing group of friends. We do that in our classes, in our groups on Sunday mornings, in our spiritual centers. We come together and we say, hey, this is mine to do. All of a sudden, in a balanced way of thinking, self-worth and self-care are priorities. And all of a sudden, personal growth is a priority. And so really, as we're looking at finances and money, because I think that this is a really charged subject, right? We look at what is mine to do, where can I get to that middle ground, and what is the systems to do? What needs to shift in the global? So there's this communal aspect and this individual aspect. And when we have both of those things together, what we have is a world that works for everyone. So a world that works for everyone. So when the individual and the communal are in balance, all of a sudden we have created a world that works for everyone. So I have a quote for y'all. It's the Eric Butterworth quote. So what Eric Butterworth in Spiritual Economics says is that as one person changes their level of thoughts, the consciousness of the whole world changes to that degree. And so as we do our work individually, the communal is also shifting. And as we do our work communally, the individual is also shifting. So it takes both of these aspects in balance. Now we are moving in our center into our 2023 Committed Giving Program. Can y'all believe that? We are already looking ahead to 2023. And we are going to, each week, beginning next week, we're going to look at one of the 4 areas. And we're going to have videos of y'all talking about how this area has shown up for you. And so what I want to end on is we end with finances, because this committed giving program, yes, we are looking at what are you committing to give financially to support the center. And in making that commitment, you are supporting us in creating our budget. You are supporting us in moving our vision forward. But also we have a bulletin board. Y'all got a break for the summer, but now we're back to bulletin boards, y'all. But each week we're going to be asking you, what does this area look like to you? What do you want to see this beloved community do to further this vision in 2023? Because the Committed Giving Program is more than about giving your money. Yes, we need that, and we give great gratitude for that. But it's also about giving your aspect, your individual vision to this communal vision, right? And so we're going to be doing that. We're going to be moving this forward, because the reality is that you cannot outgive the universe. And so I invite you, as we move into this season of committed giving in all kinds of different areas, that you look at what would it be like to be wildly generous. Wildly generous in this center, wildly generous when you're out and about, wildly generous to yourself, to your family, to the people that you meet on the street, to the grocery store clerk, to your home, to your animals, to the planet. What would wild generosity look like? And I have an example of wild generosity. So there is an entire genre of viral videos of people giving money away, large sums of money, to just random people on the streets, and then filming their reaction, and then putting it on their social media platforms. There's you can go watch video after video after video of this. And so I have one example, because Edwin Gaines says money is like love. The more you give away, the more you have. And so I have one example. We talk about tithing is 10% and it comes back 100-fold, and that you can't outgive the universe. The more that you give away, the more that comes back to you, right? And so I want to show this video as a really beautiful example of giving away and receiving even more.
Would you rather have $1,000 in cash right now, or
give $10,000 to someone random in the store?
Oh my God, I want the bread myself.
Well, there you go.
Serious?
Yes.
I'm about to have a heart attack.
Yeah.
No problem. Have a good day.
Would you rather have $1,000 in cash right now, or give $10,000 away?
I'll be honest, we just had a premature baby. We couldn't.
There you go.
Thank you so much.
Have a good day.
You're welcome. Would you rather have $1,000 cash for yourself right now, or
$10,000 to give to someone random?
Holy I'll give somebody random 10 grand.
Well, then you have 20 seconds. Here you go. 10 seconds remaining. 9 seconds. Take the whole briefcase.
Okay.
Oh my God. He was more of the heart effects. I've been out of work for the last year, and I'm just going back to work. So like this, can I hug you?
Yeah, of course.
And for being kind, I have a present for you. We're also giving you $10,000.
Oh my God. This is life-changing.
Doesn't that make you feel good? So when he decided, you know what? I'm going to bypass that $1,000 and I'm going to give $10,000 away, all of a sudden that 10,000 came back to him, right? And so what does wild generosity look like to you? And how can you practice it this coming week?